Hey everybody, it's Ryan with West Coast Stamp Company and stampcollectors.us. Today we're going to look at another album that I just acquired. This one's in a Lighthouse hingeless album. It's mostly used from what I can tell. There are some better pieces in here. As almost always, there are some condition issues in a lot of the stamps upon first glance, but I just want to show you what's in this album. I'm not going to pull out stamps and try to identify them or look for faults in this video. I just want to go through the album with you and show you what this collector put together. Just provide some information, maybe a little history on some of the stamps that are in here. Let's take a look. Join the #1 stamp sales group on Facebook, where I list 75 premium US stamps every week, many of them selling for well below retail. In fact, many stamp dealers are buying from my group and are making a profit on what they're buying. Just search for US Stamp Shop on Facebook to get better deals on better stamps. And also, please like this video and subscribe to my channel to help support the stamp collecting hobby and allow me to make more videos just like this. Okay, here's the first page, and we have, starting with #1 and #2. This red cancel looks a little more on the bluish tone or purplish side to me than you usually see it in a much more warmer red color. I'll take a look at that cancel a little bit closer. Okay, and then next to that we have a Scott #2. This one with a bit of a red cancel here. I can't really tell on the head. It looks like maybe there's some pen or other blue type cancel here. I'll have to look at that a little bit closer. And then we have what looks to be a #7. That's a type 2 1 cent. Followed by the 12, 17. These two look very good. The cut of the stamp is going into the design, so that gives it very good centering. A lot of people might get confused when I say very good centering, that the centering is actually very good. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Very good is one of the lower grades that a stamp can get, going from very good to fine to very fine to extremely fine to superb, and then finally gem 100. So when I say very good, I really mean that the centering's pretty poor on it. Now, there are some grades below very good, such as average and poor. I usually start at very good just because anything that's less than very good, it's all going to be way off center stamps that will usually have the same value. So I don't know that I see a lot in terms of value increases from, say, average to very good. Now, if you're factoring in faults as part of the grade, then perhaps you might find it beneficial to use some of those lower ones. I've really just simplified my language on my Facebook group and websites that very good is at the very bottom of the grading list. So when you hear me say very good, that's what I mean. Like I said, these are very good centering. The #7, I would call that probably fine to very fine. It looks like the frame line is showing here on the top and it's complete at the bottom. Really tough to get both of the top and bottom frame lines in the stamp on this issue, so I'd call that probably fine to very fine. Then you have here a 24, type 5 1 cent. This looks to be a 26, which is the type 3 3 cent. With a continuous line frame there. And then over here we have the 12 cent. This looks to be a 36. I'm not seeing any broken lines here, but this is the perforate design of the 12 cent. So this was a right sheet margin where the stamp was on the right side of the sheet. And this line that you see right here is the guideline. So this is where this pane of stamps was cut from the press sheet. And then here we have a really nicely struck January 8th, 1864 sock on the nose cancel. That means that it's almost perfectly centered here. You could see the circle of this double circle cancel and the circle of the design of the stamp are almost aligned like an eclipse. And so that's really nicely centered on there. The cancel itself is not struck as deep or as clean as it could be, but I could still make it out that it's a New Orleans cancel, 1864. Okay, and then you have a 24-cent next to that. On the next page, we have a Scott number 9, where you can see how close the stamp below it was to this design. A nice cut in here. Took real precision when cutting these to get a full design on the top and the bottom. You can see here showing the stamp just below it how close those actual designs are from each other. I would call that almost, it's less than a millimeter. Then here you have a couple 11s, followed by a few more 36s here, and another with the guideline in the right margin here. Another example of that. And then a 37, which is the 24-cent, and 38, which is the 30-cent. Which this one looks like it has both black and red cancels on it. Okay, and then the next page, here we see a strip of 3 of the 36s. This collector really liked 36s, it looks like. And these both appear to be type 5s, which would make those Scott number 24s. Another 26 here. And then down here we have a few of the 10-cent issues, the different design variations of those. On the next page, we have some of the 1861 issues. I'm not seeing any in here of the 3 cents that look pink or even rose pink to me. They all look to be rose color, so just a regular Scott number 65 on these 3. And then this green cent does look to be a dark green shade of the 68, so that would be 68A. And then a couple of the 12-cent denominations and a couple of the 90 cents down here at the bottom. On this page, we have a few more of these 1861 issues, including the 2, 5, 15, and 24-cent denominations. All of these centering on these looking very good to fine. And then on the next page here, we have a few of the grilled examples, most likely F grills on these, but we'll have to take them out and look. This 2-cent is larger. That's definitely going to be an E grill. So these ones all look like E grills. Yeah. These all look to be E grills. And then on the next page, here are the F grills. Now, a little tip to know here that the 30-cent and 90-cent grills only come in F grills. So if you come across a 30-cent or 90-cent with a grill, this is going to be number 100 and 101. And the same thing with the 5-cent. So if you come across the 5, the 30, or the 90 with a grill on it, it's going to be the F grill varieties. Couple nice little leaf cancels here on the 10-cent and 12-cent. And then the 30-cent has a nice red cancel. The next page is the pictorial set of 1869. And this looks to be complete. It has a type 1 of the 15-cent, which is about 4 times the catalog value of the type 2 here. The Scott catalog will show you what the differences are between these two, but the easiest thing to look at is this. On the type 2, there's this little kind of diamond shape at the top within the frame line, and the type 1 doesn't have this blue frame line at the top at all. It's just empty space there. And then you've got the 24-cent, 30-cent. I can see a little tear here on the edge. The 90-cent looks really nice. I could see a little tear here at the bottom, but it's lightly canceled. Now on this page, this is supposed to be the reissue without grills, but I can already see a grill in the 6, maybe even the 12. So I'm not sure if the collector was aware of there not being grill marks on this issue or not. There are not supposed to be grill marks on the reissued versions, which are a lot more rare and valuable without the grill versus the original ones with the grill. Okay, on this page we have the large banknotes. Looks fairly complete, all used. This 7 cent looks to be very well centered. I'd call that very fine to extremely fine, but it looks like there might be a little bit of perf issues happening here, a couple little faults on these perfs. Oh yeah, I can tell on the backside there are some perf faults here. Unfortunately, I don't think that one would stand on its own in terms of resale. I also noticed 1 cent is the issue where the plate is more dark at the top and all of the details, the lines that are normally found in the background lattice of this design are completely inked out. So it's a much more filled design here at the top. And the color usually is a little more of a duller, even gray blue on this one. So that's not the right issue there. On the next page here, we have some more of the large banknote examples. This one has a few better looking cancels. The 7 cent has these geometric New York cancels, which are very common on the 7 cent. And there's a nice star shape here on the 2 cent. And then these 5 little circles here on the 3 cent is interesting as well. A few better examples there of cancels. These are the grilled issues, and there's a 7 cent here. I can clearly see the grill on it here. I'll have to take a look at that to make sure that grill measures correctly and looks correct. I usually always send in grilled varieties that have a catalog value of around $400 or more, just to make sure that it's an authentic grill. Lower than that, if it was well centered, I'd probably send it in for a cert as well. But because the lower varieties, usually with some faults, the sale price of those are going to maybe not justify paying for a certificate on those. But with the large banknote series, 6 cent and up, I would definitely get a certificate on them. Even if you see there's faults on them, knowing that the grill is authentic and not fake will make a buyer confident to purchase it from you. There's just so many fakes of these grills floating around out there. On the more expensive stamps, you're going to want to get a certificate of authenticity, whether you're buying or selling these. And here is the next page, more large banknotes. Not seeing anything that's standing out as very well centered. There's a stamp here that is backwards. What is this? This is an Argentina stamp for some reason, just plugged in here. It says American banknote. Maybe this is a placeholder for this stamp. Haven't really seen it done like that before, but that appears what it is. And then the next page, we have some more of these used large banknotes. Here's a 218 with a straight edge and a very damaged 217. Then we have the small banknotes that are all used. And looks like there is a $1 and $2 down here at the bottom. Those could probably stand on their own. And a couple more $1 and a $5 in this set. Otherwise, the centering on all these are mostly not so great. Also noticing several faults here and there. I don't think this collector was too worried about condition or centering. I think they were more worried about filling the spots in their album. Here's the 1902 regular issues, again, all used. There is a $2 one that looks to be in decent shape. And then a $5, which I can tell there's some perf faults here at the top, and it's just very heavily canceled. Heavily canceled stamps are just not as attractive, so they're going to sell for less. On the next page here, it looks like a pair from a booklet of the Scott 300. This is not a coil. This has got a straight edge on the left and the right with perforations in the middle, so this probably came from a booklet pane. Then we go into the Washington Franklin's issues here. Again, I'm looking for nicely centered and sound used examples of stamps in this era. Generally though, if they're not well centered, most of the stamps here on up in used condition are just not going to be worth any money. So I'm really keeping an eye out for anything that's well centered to check to see if it could be graded, and then there may be some value here in these used stamps. Nothing standing out here. A few different coils on this page. They're noting this as bluish paper, which just by looking at it, I don't think that it is. The best way to tell if you have one of the experimental bluish paper stamps is to place it on orange paper. Orange and blue are complementary colors, meaning that they are opposite of each other on the color wheel. So when you put them on top of each other, it's going to have the highest contrast between the two. It will really help the blue color stand out more. So here I have a little orange piece of paper, and we're going to put that on the back. Not seeing any blue here at all. And we'll check the other two. Same. And so none of these are bluish paper. But I do have an example here of the Scott 369, which is the bluish paper on the 2-cent Lincoln stamp. And let's take a look at what this one looks like on here. You can see the difference of the colors here on the paper. And then even when you put them on top of each other like this, this is the bluish paper. This one has a blue tint to it, but it is almost a grayish color, a darker kind of grayish color rather than blue. So that's how you can tell, get a piece of orange paper. And then the next page, here are some more Washington Franklin issues. Just quickly glancing at them to see if anything jumps out at me as being extremely fine or not. Here are some flat plate coils. These are going to have to be checked to see if they're authentic. And then we go into the Perf 10 issues. And right away, I'm noticing this 4-cent. It has this nicely struck San Francisco cancel on it that's fitting within the entire stamp here. And the margins look to be pretty decent on this one. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, that looks really nice. Could definitely be gradable as long as there's no faults on it. Looks sound upon first glance, but I'll have to take a closer look. It's a really nice looking one there. This one here is being noted as a 461. That's going to be the Perf 11 in the single line watermark. And so this one will need to be checked out to see if it is authentic, if the perforations are good and the watermark's there. Usually you'll want to get a certificate on a 461 just because you can reperf an imperf stamp to give it a perf 11 measurement and present itself as a 461, but in that case it would not be authentic. The mint example has a catalog value of $175 and the used is over $300, so you'll want to make sure you have a certificate of authenticity for this stamp. Here are some imperf pairs, one with a Shermack vending perforation on it. More coils. These are going to be the rotary press ones. Next page, we've got the Perf 10 unwatermarked. I can see that this stamp here is a Perf 12. It's in the wrong spot. And here you have the $2 and $5 reissues from 1903. It's $4.79 and $4.80. And here you've got the unwatermarked rotary press coils. This one's nice with a nice duplex on it. But unfortunately, this is not a type 1, it's a type 3. I could see the little notch in the ribbon here. So this is in the wrong spot. Again, another misidentified item here in this album. And then we have the Perf 11, 498 to 518. Again, all used. This one's got a nice impression on the back of the $1. This is the 518 and it's got this reversed imprint. So this is not an error in terms of it being printed on both sides. This is a transfer that was caused when the ink of the sheet below it was still wet. This sheet came down on top of it. Then you ended up having this transfer on the back that printed on the back, and it's pretty common. This one's pretty clear, pretty complete design, a little bit darker than what you usually see. Some people may find that interesting to collect. I don't think it adds any real kind of significant value to this stamp. Something interesting there. All right, and then we have the 523, which is going to be the red orange. And then we have a 547. That's the carmine version of this. This one looks like the right bottom corner has been separated. And a 524, which is the $5 issue. This design is both heavily canceled and has perfins, which are these little holes that you see punched in it. Down here are the offsets, and in the offsets I see there is this type 7. Down this type 7 looks to be pretty well centered. It's a little larger on the top than the bottom from what I was seeing in this and on the album page. I would call that very fine on this one, maybe very fine to extremely fine. And finishing up with some more Washington Franklins, there's the 1922 definitives used, and then here we have the coils. Here is a type 2 design of the coil. That's a 599A. Unfortunately, in used condition and as a single, that one's not going to really have any value to it. These are the coil waste issues. This one looks like the rotary Perf 11 by 10.5, so I don't think this is the coil waste version of it. It's too narrow. Down here are the Perf 10s. This 2 cent looks to be like a Carmen Lake color. I'll have to look at this one a little closer, but it's pretty dark and purpley. If you can really see that too well on the camera, but I'll put it next to like these red stamps or these carmine stamps here. You can see, maybe see the difference in color between these. This one definitely has a lot of purple in it. And then here are the rotary issues of this design. I think this collector really wanted to stick to collecting used stamps only. Next up are the commemoratives, going back to the Colombian issue here. And we can see that they're missing the $1 and $2, but they have the 3, 4, and 5. The 5 looks to be very heavily canceled on that one. The 4 looks to be either unused or lightly canceled. Oh, it actually is original gum. This is the first mint stamp that I've seen since we've gone through this album, which is interesting because this is a high dollar stamp. Although I do see a couple little stains on it, some faults, which will affect the price. Then we have the Trans-Mississippi issue next with the 292 and 293. That's the $1 and $2. Here is another one of the bluish papers. I could tell that this one already looks to be bluish just at first glance. We can put it on orange paper again and see how that looks compared to the non-bluish paper. So that gives you an idea the difference between the tones and intensities of these stamps with the bluish paper on them. But unfortunately, this 369 looks like it's reperfed on the right side there. The holes are just, these points, these little teeth are just coming to a point. They look very pointed, and that's just not how the perforation should be on a stamp. Here are the Pan-Pacific issues with the Perf 10. And then we have a white plain sheet here. This one is mint, the second mint item that we've seen in here today. This is the top right position of the press sheet, so this will not have the dot on the S variety. That only comes from the bottom left position. This is top right. We can tell that because it's got the large margin at the top and the large margin at the right. So this was at the top right of the press sheet. And here we've got a couple Zeppelin postcards. So here's the 65 cent. The stamp itself looks to be very fine on a postcard. And then below that is the C14, and this is the $1.30. Unfortunately, this looks like there's a lot of glue. Maybe this was re-glued back onto this postcard at some point very sloppily, or it could be the person who put it on here had dirty hands or was smearing it around once they licked it and stuck it on here. They weren't really caring how nice it looked, but whatever the case is, there's some staining around the stamp here on the card. I'll have to check to see if the stamp itself is stained or not. That could affect the value. On this side here, this is just another World Flight cover with a $1.04 stamp on it. Here's the Kansas Nebraska set in used condition. Also not seeing anything centered on those. Everything else appears to be used. Probably go through some of these issues here in the 1930s and 40s to see if there's anything centered and used that might be worth grading. But other than that, all of the material thereafter is basically not going to be worth much retail wise. The value in this part of the album all the way back in used condition is going to have no value at all in terms of the value of the stamps. All right, well, thanks for taking a look with me at this album. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, as always, best of luck and happy collecting.